I think it's just constant belief in yourself. I think, my dad instilled that in me, that you could do anything, you could do anything, you could do anything. Now, it's going to take a plan to get there. You can't just wish for it, but you're capable of doing anything if you put a plan in place to execute on what you want that end goal to be. And I think the worst advice is when people do have a limited mindset and they're like, you can't do that. I think I keep going back to can and can't. That's my favorite quote is Henry Ford. But I mean, I think the worst advice is when someone says you can't do that.
Welcome back to Mic'd Up. I'm your host, Mike DiCioccio, and today's guest is a true testament to the power of resilience, transformation, and betting on yourself, even when the odds are stacked against you. From overcoming a life-altering decision that led to prison time to building a legacy rooted in integrity and grit, he's a living example of turning setbacks into amazing opportunities. As an accomplished entrepreneur, he's closed over $200 million in commercial real estate transactions and scaled a cannabis operation across multiple states. His memoir inspires others to embrace growth and lead with purpose. Welcome to the show, leader, visionary, changemaker, and the author of the new book, Ego Strength, Betting on Myself, Chuck Cuda.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
Dude, I wish I could just come and hang out with you right now. You're hanging out in the cigar lounge. So guys, if you're listening or watching on YouTube, thanks for being with us, and understand the quality might not be as good as it normally is, but Chuck just literally landed off an airplane and hopped on the podcast for us to be on the show. And I appreciate you doing that, brother.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So where is this cigar lounge? Is this like your place you hang out at, or you're just hanging out?
So I have a family social club. It's one of my business ventures. It's a membership-driven family social club in Kansas City, Missouri. And we've got a full restaurant, bar, 6 pickleball courts, full court basketball, 9-hole par 3 golf course, cigar lounge with a poker room, golf simulators, movie theater, arcade, just high level of amenities, get families together. This is one of the projects that I really wanted to do. It was during COVID, get kids off of devices. I've got 4 kids myself, so I wanted to have a place where I could conduct business. I could bring my personal, professional life together, still be a good leader, mentor to my kids, show them that building relationships is more impactful than just sitting on a video game and playing games and sitting around the house.
I had no idea about this, guys. Like, I prepared for Chuck, but literally had no idea. So maybe I didn't dive as deep as I needed to be. I don't know. Is that even something that's like online that people know about, or is it just kind of family?
It's been more word of mouth. We haven't done a whole lot of marketing. I mentioned it in the book, chapter 10, the legacy chapter, because I feel like this place is really going to be part of my legacy. But it's not something we do a whole lot of marketing with, and I don't have a lot of social media myself. All I have is LinkedIn. But we do have 380 memberships. We opened about 3 years ago, and it's been a passion project. It's been a lot of fun.
That's incredible. Why are we doing this remotely? You should have told me about this. I would have flew in. We can get along. You could be decked out in your Kansas City Chiefs gear. I'll be in my Bills gear. And guys, this episode right here, if we stopped and didn't even get into Chuck's story today, it's proof that Bills fans and Chiefs fans can get along, at least for an hour on a podcast, to share some really cool inspiration from his story. So as we record this, I'm decked out in my Bills gear. It's Thursday night football tonight versus the Texans. I don't know the result of the game, so when you're listening to this, that game already would have a result. But it is pretty cool that Kansas City Chiefs fans are rooting for the Bills tonight because we're playing the Texans, a division foe. So Chuck, I know you said you kind of stay limited online, but I will have your LinkedIn in the show notes, and I'll have your website and your book. I'll have that linked.
Yep.
And anyone who's tuning in right now, if you're watching on YouTube, it's in the description. If you're listening on Apple, Spotify, check out the show notes, and that's all clickable for you right there as well. I always forget to do this at the end, so I'm going to do this up front. If you guys love the show, you've been tuning in, you get a lot of inspirational content from the entrepreneurs and authors that have been on the podcast and some of the really cool high performers. Then, subscribe to the show, like this video, and I'd love you to comment and let us know what you really like from Chuck's story. Let's get right into it, man. In the intro, I mentioned that you had a life-changing decision. It ultimately landed you in prison. Can you walk us through what happened right there, and how do you feel that experience actually shifted your whole outlook on life?
Yeah, yeah. So, it was back in 2009, back when sports betting was not legal. I mean, we've talked sports a little bit already, but
Yeah.
I had some friends, some good friends of mine, thought they had a workaround with an online website that they were utilizing to do some bookmaking. I made a few wagers, and then I ended up getting a subpoena to testify in a grand jury investigation against those friends in August of 2009. So I refused to testify ultimately. And then I was granted immunity, or then if you do not testify, they could send you to federal prison for up to 18 months for civil contempt of court. I again refused to testify, and judge told me that I held my keys to my cell. If I ever wanted to testify, I could get out, and they sent me off. So, the life-altering moment for me was, Thanksgiving of that year. I went away. It was like October 5th of 2009 is when I had to report, and they took me to CCA Leavenworth, which was a federal holding facility. And I'm in there with murderers. I'm in there with guys that had RICO cases doing 20 years, maybe waiting transfers. So it was not a picnic by any means, but I was spending time, pointing the finger at the judge, pointing the finger at my buddies, pointing the finger at really everybody at myself, or everybody but myself, until Thanksgiving of that year when I was on 23-hour lockdown. And I was like, wait a minute. I'm not with my family because of the decision that I made. I made the decision to bet, right? So having
Right.
that ultimate accountability was really a life-altering moment for me. And it was a decision where I said, this was me. I've got to become a better version of myself, which is kind of what ego strength is about. It's about taking a look in the mirror and making the changes that you need to make to become the best version of yourself. And I knew I had so much potential, so much ability. And here I was, sitting in Leavenworth CCA. So
Did you
at that
do the
point,
full 18 months?
No. So they ended up indicting or convicting them, I guess, on the charges in February. So I got it once they got their convictions. I got out.
Okay.
So it was about 5 months.
5 months, man. So you had a lot to reflect on. 5 months, and this is '09. So I mean, were you already married at that point?
I got married, so I got out in February. Found out I didn't have my job back. I worked for my uncle's commercial real estate brokerage company, and I was the top earner in the company. I mean, I was doing really well as a 25, 26, 27-year-old kid making, well over six figures. Get out. He tells me that, he doesn't like the optics as to what it would be in the brokerage community. So I no longer have my job. My wife and I get married in June of that year.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So really, I mean, the life you're living right now probably feels like it's like a whole different movie. It's like a part one movie is everything that happened before '09. And do you kind of feel like it's two big chapters, or maybe there's different iterations of what's happened in the last 15 years, but do you kind of feel like that? It's pre '09, post '09?
100%. And I mean, a lot of it is mindset. A lot of it was, before '09, I did enough. I feel like I did enough. I had a lot of potential, but I never maximized that potential, and then when I took that ultimate accountability and I said, man, I've got to do whatever it takes to be the best version of myself, started reading more, started, putting forth more effort, utilizing all my time to the maximum of my ability, then it became a totally different book, to your point, So
Yeah.
post 2010, I mean,
That's the
been a
thing though.
fun
Like
journey.
it seems, Chuck, that, and I'm going to say we, when I say we, I'm talking about everybody tuning in right now, and everybody has their own story, their own journey. You and I are very different, but different things we can relate to is a crash and burn. A lot of entrepreneurs have crash and burns in business where they lose everything, or a partner goes wild on them and they lose everything that they thought they were going to have a part of. And I've heard so many different stories of crash and burn. But when you're on that ground level and you had 5 months to really think about it, I mean, and disconnect from your family physically and all that. So I don't have that experience to be able to relate to that, but I've had some ground moments where you're on the ground floor. And when you really think about like, okay, now I can build from a clean slate again. Like I can start over and I will start over. And so any good habit you wanted to start from that point, you could build. So the silver lining of being on the ground floor is now you can build things properly, where even before '09, not saying the gambling thing, but like, or betting or whatever that looked like, not that, but you may have had some bad habits or some things you did that weren't part of your life that you were real proud of. And now anyone who's listening to this can say, all right, I'm building on top of this stable foundations, things that I want to be proud of, the man I want to be, the woman I want to be. And that sounds like what you did. And so I'd love to now walk us into the part of where this sparked your whole idea for ego strength. And, when people finish your book, what do you really hope sticks with them from this part of your story?
Yeah, I mean, what you focus on expands. I mean, really is one of the things that I really want them to understand. So if you focus on, I said I don't have a lot of social media. If you focus on social media, then what are you giving up? What does that opportunity cost in life, right? If I spend 2 hours a day in social media, maybe I'm losing 2 hours a day on my personal or professional life, time that I could spend with my family, time that I could spend bettering my kids, time that I could spend leading my companies, creating generational leaders within my companies. So what does that opportunity cost? Because I'm not necessarily utilizing the time to the best of my ability or to best suit me. So I think anytime you focus on something, it expands. That's negativity. That's a lot of people, when you talk about mindset, growth versus limited, a lot of people what you focus on expands. If you focus on negative things that happen in your life, you're more apt to continue to see those negative things and not necessarily and say, I can't, instead of I can.
I can. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something I've learned myself, and I taught my daughter at a very young age to have your antenna go up when you hear someone say, I can't. And if it's your own internal voice saying, I can't do this, ask yourself, how can I make it work? Do I need to ask for help? Do I need something else to happen so it can happen? Or is it just my decision where I am actually saying I can't when I really truly can? And it literally started at the playground when she was afraid to go down a slide one day. And I had that as a coaching teachable moment for her. And now she catches, sometimes myself, I'll even still forget and slip up and say can't. And she's 10 years old. She loves to correct her dad. But it's awesome. And it makes me realize that she's paying attention and understands. And so, yeah, rewiring your brain, again, rewiring, it's all part of that strip down to the ground level and building back up again. Here's the thing. Anyone who's tuning in right now and they're like, well, I don't want to, maybe do 5 months of prison time or make such a decision that's going to impact my family. Here's the good news. You don't have to crash and burn, but what you do need to do is if you're really not happy with where you're at and you want to reevaluate, you can do that at any level of where you're at. You just want to get rid of the bad habits, the stuff that's holding you down, the crud, clean it out. Just like a good, people clean their basement out like once a year, every other year, and stuff goes to the curb. Like you're cleaning it out and you're building the good stuff on top of it. And you've done that. And I want to talk about how you also crushed it in real estate, man. Over $200 million in deals that you closed. So right there, what do you think are the biggest factors that led to that growth or that success? What are some of the common denominators among $200 million in deals that you closed?
And that was just recently. If you go for my whole career, I mean, it was probably substantially more. My brokerage company did like 80 million last year with just 3 guys.
That's incredible.
I think the big thing there is really time blocking, time allocation, doing a handful of things that are going to best suit your need, just like anything else in life. We did a lot of prospecting, maintaining relationships, coming from a position of value, always put your client ahead of yourself. There's just a handful of things in any type of business. I always try to come from a position of value.
Where do you feel you learned a lot of those valuable lessons? Did you have mentors recently, or is this stuff that you learned over the years, even through some of those bad moments? Or was it when you were doing that 5-month time, you said you were reading a lot?
Yeah. So a culmination of things, the Italian-American family is very tight knit, and I always had good leaders to look up to. My grandfather was a hard worker. Both my grandfathers were hard workers and entrepreneurs. My dad was in the restaurant business, and I saw him scale and grow a restaurant. So he was a good mentor. My uncle that I worked for in real estate was arguably the best mentor that I had. But I always had a lot of people around me who were entrepreneurs and leaders, both in athletics, I think taught me a lot as well. Just coaches, certain leaders in my life. But reading books, reading self-help books, you can pick up information anywhere. I do read quite a bit.
I love it, man. That's one of the things I love about podcasting is I get to interview a lot of the authors and people that have these mindset books. And I just interviewed a great author right here, Laura. I have her book on the desk. It's called Whole Not Perfect. It's a lot of what we're talking about, like that whole restart and building yourself back up, the person you want to be. So it's incredible. It's important to put that stuff into your mind, right? People love going to the gym. Yeah, it's important to go to the gym. It's important to eat right. It's important to sleep, but it's also important what you put in your mind, right? You want to feed yourself fuel, but what's the mental fuel, and the mindset fuel? And so you've done that, and it's not by accident that your firm did 80 million last year. And, you've had a recent deal. We talked about the 200 million plus all the other deals that you've done. These things don't happen by accident. You're a team of three. Obviously you probably have more people on the team than that, but like you're a three-headed monster, if you will, in a good way. So talk about that though. Like how did you connect with these three guys or other two guys and make this whole thing work? Like this is something that had to be very calculated.
Yeah. So, I branched out on my own then in about 2011 because my uncle, like I said, didn't hire me back. And I started my brokerage company under the Keller Williams commercial umbrella. At the time, Buddy Norman, who was a big player in Texas commercial real estate with Staubach Company, was overseeing it. And I thought it'd be a good transition. A buddy of mine comes up to me shortly after I start this. His name is Nate Prather. He's now leading my real estate company as I venture into other opportunities. But he was kind of hitting rock bottom himself. I mean, he'd lost his mom when we were 9 years old. He'd lost his dad when we were 21. He didn't hit rock bottom, but he was sure scraping the shit out of the sides, pardon my language.
That's okay.
And he said, Chuck, I need help. I said, well, Nate, I mean, I'm like a year into my marriage here. I just started this company. I want to help, but bringing you on could arguably bring us both down, So I went home and talked to my wife, prayed on it, and called him up. And I said, let's do this. You know what? I was at my own rock bottom 2 years ago, and I think I'm ready for this challenge. I'm going to embrace this. This is something I want to do. I want to be a leader. I want to be a mentor. I want you to grow alongside me. So we put together a plan. And at the time, I'd had about 9 years of commercial real estate experience, but never leading a team. So he was my first hire. Brought him on, and it was a yo-yo. It was a roller coaster. We were up, we were down, and I just knew that if we stayed focused and I was able to get him as laser focused as I was, that it would work out. And it was after about 6 or 8 months, maybe even 12 months, that he kind of had his aha moment and things really started to turn around, and we had that momentum. But teaching someone, guiding someone, leading someone is not easy. And when people are trying to make change, even for the better, it's difficult because you always have the outside influences pulling you in other directions, right?
Yep.
So that was my very first hire. And then we brought on an admin, and then, I recruited talent from there. So my next hire was someone who had experience. I didn't need to allocate my time to train them, because it does in any business. You've got to allocate time to train your employees or to train your staff. It could affect your revenue in the interim.
Absolutely. And
So
the
really
thing I've learned too in doing this show is, and talked to a lot of great business minds and how they built their organizations and many times empires, just really, really incredible businesses, is getting people who are the yin and yang, right? Like, I'm really great at this, so I hired someone to do not the same thing I'm good at, because I'm going to handle that, like the opposite side of it. So some people are really good at handling clients and customers and facing customers. Some are really more technical side behind the scenes that might be able to do like the, infrastructure of the business, the software as a service stuff that's over my head. And, you got people that need to pick up the phone or go door to door doing sales. Like, you need that person that can run that side of the organization. So it sounds like you really have a really nice, well-rounded team between the three of you guys.
Yeah, we do.
That's awesome. And now from there, you also pivoted into a cannabis business. I don't know much about this. Elevation, right? From 5 to 22 licenses across 3 states now. So share some of the big wins there and maybe some of the tougher lessons that you learned from that as well.
Yeah. So, I got into cannabis in 2019. I'm a serial entrepreneur, and I've been in various other industries, but I've always been active. So like home health, outpatient PT, coin-op laundries, retail coffee shops. And I've always kind of been the ops guy until I found someone else to operate it. This, I knew nothing about cannabis. This was supposed to be a passive investment for me. So in 2019,
it already existed. You kind of bought it
well,
and grew it.
we were applying for licenses. Yeah. So we were applying for licenses, and in Missouri, you needed 51% of the capital needed to be Missouri residents. So we partnered with a group from Colorado who had operational experience in Colorado, Pennsylvania, Michigan. This was their fourth state. And we put up, we ended up putting up about 65% of the capital, me, another buddy, and some family, just family and friends. Well, we won 3 licenses from a retail perspective. We bought a cultivation, bought a manufacturing, and we were losing money as fast as faster than anything I've ever seen. So we had capital call. We had capital call after capital call, never saw financials. They went through 5 CFOs in like a 3-year period of time. And finally I said, guys, I'm done. You either buy us out or we buy you out. We're not going to fulfill this next capital call. So we ended up buying them out in July of 2022. And when we had 3 licenses in Missouri, so 3 dispensaries, 1 cultivation, 1 manufacturing, and we were losing $300,000 a month at the time. And in the board meeting where we talked about buying them out, I was kind of going off, and the CEO of the company at the time said, "You think you can do this better than me?" And I said, "I know I can."
Yeah.
So then when we bought him out, the board said, "Well, you said you could do it better than him. We're going to vote you in as CEO."
And now, how's the business doing today?
So now we did over $100 million T12 in top line revenue. We've got about a 35% EBITDA margin. So, we're doing really well. We're in 3 states. We've got over 20 retail stores, 5 cultivations, 2 manufacturing. And it's been a fun ride.
All right. I'm talking to the audience right now, Chuck. Do you guys see why I wanted Chuck on the show? Like, I didn't even know that part. I knew the other part of his story, but I'm not surprised when I hear that, Chuck, because this is you. This is the magic that you make happen. And I want to learn from you, and our audience wants to know like how they can do this for yourself. So in that situation, right? Sounds like cannabis, that industry wasn't really something you went into with a lot of knowledge. You just knew the business acumen you had from your past with all the other businesses you've dealt with. You took what you learned there and you rolled that same game plan out, and it worked. Can you maybe share, if someone's going through something right now, they're like, man, I just want to scale my business, and maybe they're struggling with it, or they want to, before they even attempt to do something like what you did there, buy a business and turn it into something significant. Like, what are the core elements that made that work for you?
Yeah, I mean, the very first thing I did, Mike, and I think this was paramount for our success, is I called an all hands meeting, and I let the employees know that guys, I don't know anything about this industry, okay, but I do know a lot about business, and I'm going to be working alongside you guys until I do know about this industry. So I went down to our facility, and I worked the first couple of weeks. I was in there, learning as much as I could about the cultivation side, the manufacturing side. I was harvesting with them. I was doing the $15 an hour jobs, and I wanted them to see that, hey, nothing's beneath me. First and foremost, I'm going to work alongside you. I'm never going to tell you to go do something that I wouldn't do myself, and I'm going to lead alongside you and not just point fingers and just delegate, right? I mean, I want to delegate, but I also want to elevate everybody. And that's kind of why we got the name Elevate as well. But
nice segue there as well. So Elevate is the mindset. It's the name of the company. And I love what you said, that you weren't afraid to get on the ground floor. And I think that's what a lot of people who lead a team, if there's a drop off or a disconnect, it's usually asking people to do things that you don't really know how to properly supervise. And I've had people when I worked in corporate, like corporate America, where the people that were above me couldn't do my job as well as me. And that always felt wrong. And I still was respectful, but it just felt there was a disconnect. And it's like, they never did my job, or at least tried to do it. You know what I mean? Like, not everybody that's above you on the org chart might be as good as you. As like, if you're a sales rep, and they may be better at you, better than you at something else. But my point is, that's where that disconnect is. The fact that you earned their respect on the floor, doing you know what I'm saying? Like doing what you're asking them to do, and you weren't afraid to get dirty and do it yourself. So I can tell that that's why the team respects you like they do. And you're also were successful, because one thing I have learned on the show is like for you to properly scale something, you have to really know and understand it. And every process and SOP that you have, like how are you going to replicate it? You have to understand it inside and out. And if you do it yourself first, then you can train yourself, train your team on how to do it. You can record that and over and over and over again, you're training team members. So really cool. Is there anything else you want to share about Elevate updates or something that you learned along the way that you think our audience would love to hear?
Yeah, I mean, I did learn something along the way, and I think it's very important as you scale a company. We had 85 people, now we have 600 employees.
Holy smokes!
And empathy is something that I was never really good at. And the fact when people say all the time, treat people how you want to be treated, I never really cared. Like I moved on from my wins as fast as I moved on from my losses. I have thick skin. How people treat me really doesn't affect me, and I'm going to love them regardless, right? Well, you can't do that when you have 600 employees, right? You have to, but it's don't only treat them how you want to be treated, treat them how they want to be treated.
It's huge.
Because everybody
Huge
receives
difference.
100%, and everybody receives messaging differently. Whether I'm coaching, 10U baseball, 8U baseball, leading my team of 600, you have to convey messages in the way that they're best going to receive it and want to trust you and want to work for you. And I think that's a huge learning point for me.
I haven't talked about it in a long time on the show, but I have mentioned the golden rule is basically treat others the way that you treat others the way that you want them to treat yourself. I'm kind of bastardizing the terms, but that's the idea of the golden rule, right? The platinum rule is treat others the way that they want to be treated. And it's something I learned in sales, because if you're, say you have a storefront, someone walks in the door and now you're trying to do that discovery with someone. And you're like, I'm going to treat them the way I like to shop. When I shop, I just like, I'm in and 1, 2, 3, I need some information. I'm going to buy it right away. I'm a decision maker. All right. So if you treat everybody like how you shop, someone wants to come and get more information because they're a relator, they're a connector personality. It's not going to work real well. So you have directors, you have connectors, relators, and you have analytical thinkers. And that's kind of the 4 buckets I've learned. And I hated the concept of it when I was being taught this in corporate America. I'm like, we're not robots. We don't fit into 4 buckets. And then I started to do really well at the company when I just shut up and learned and had some humility. And I learned that, some people might be 1 or 2 of them, but treating them as they want to be treated. And you have to learn people through their body language and their tonality and having a great conversation, more of a consultative conversation with them. You learn that. So as a leader, it's the same thing. I'm sharing this, for the audience to really pick up on right here is, you don't, there's 600 people, so you're not gonna be able to do the same thing for everyone. And that's the whole point. But I'm sure you go out in the field, you meet with them and you get to know Sally, you get to know John, you get to spend some time and see what makes them, right? And that's really good advice, is to treat people in general the way that they want to be treated. I think that lesson goes far.
And you said a word in there that really helped as well, really helped earn trust and create culture, humility. A leader has to have humility.
Yeah. It's a huge thing. I think it's not, to me, it's a gate, and it's not even just a gate you can see through. It's like talk about prison. You're blocking yourself into a prison if you don't have humility, because until you come out of that shell, you're not going to learn as much. You're not going to be as likable, and you won't be the best version of yourself because there's things you need to learn you don't know yet. And if you don't have humility, then you're going to be like a rock stuck in the past,
Yep.
So man, I really love a lot of the stuff you're talking about. I'm going to give some love to our sponsors. Then if we got a couple more minutes, I got a little bit of rapid fire for you coming. But a little bit of love to our sponsors, Social Chameleon. Check us out at socialchameleon.us. It's my company, our podcast agency that we run. You press record and we handle the rest. It's podcasting done for you. In particular, we love working with businesses, small businesses, entrepreneurs, people who are looking to get their story out, their expertise out, teaching, inspirational content. That's what we love to do. Check us out at socialchameleon.us. And we're also recording this thanks to one of our affiliates over at riverside.fm. Record high quality audio and video remotely, riverside.fm. That's how Chuck and I are connecting halfway across the country right now. And Libsyn.com, SYN.com is how we get this on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and all the major audio podcast players. You can check it out at lipson.com. And if you use my promo code, be great, and it's all lumped together, you'll get your first month free. And so if you're interested in launching a podcast, reach out to me. And then secondly, get that Lipson subscription and you'll get that first month for free. All right, I got a ton more I want to get into. I think we had like 10 more minutes booked. Do you have a little bit more than 10 minutes or do we need to cut off in about 10?
No, I do. I
Few more minutes?
I could go 20, 25. Yeah.
All right, cool. One thing we didn't talk about yet, some of the cool things you're doing. I know that you've raised over $3 million through OPES Charitable Foundation. That's an incredible feat. And I want to know more about it. And then also share like what inspired you to start that and, you know, kind of the impact that it's making so far.
Yeah, absolutely. So my dad is a non-Hodgkin's follicular lymphoma survivor, and Dad was always my hero growing up. He got diagnosed in 2015, went into remission, and it came back more aggressively. And in 2017, they recommended an allogeneic bone marrow transplant, which is a bone marrow donor from the registry. And Dad couldn't find a match on the registry. And I was fortunate enough to donate my bone marrow to my father in May of 2017 as a haploidentical. And he's still alive today. And it was an awesome experience. And it made me realize that I needed to not only raise awareness because there's not enough people that are on this registry for Dad to not find a 10 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10 match. So I needed to raise awareness for cancer research and bone marrow donors, but then raise money because I'm not smart enough to cure cancer, but I've got enough relationships to where I can leverage those relationships, leverage my dad's crisis to raise money for cancer research. And we started the foundation at that point. First year, our goal was to raise $100,000 in 6 weeks because we could fund a research grant in my dad's name if we did it in a short period of time for the Light the Night Walk, which is Leukemia Lymphoma Society, now Blood Cancer United. Yeah. And I raised $105,000 in 6 weeks. And I was like, man, I'm pretty good at this.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's so cool. What's the acronym OPES?
It's actually not an acronym. It's actually Latin short plural for opulence, abundance, resources, and wealth.
Abundance. Okay. Very cool. Yep. And then I did know that LLS, I saw that I saw it on a social media post and then doing the research for you here yesterday. It's now Blood Cancer United, like you said. Yeah. I actually was I'll share a quick story. Back in somewhere between 2017 and 19. It was early on when I just launched my business. And the first couple of years, I'm going to be transparent. I kind of got my butt kicked and I wasn't making the income. I wasn't supplementing my income. I walked away from corporate and I wasn't supplementing my income yet. So I was definitely in the struggle years. And a friend of mine came up to me and she nominated me to be, one of the Man of the Year candidates for LLS. Yeah. And I'm like, well, what goes into it? I mean, this is great. And, there's a lot that goes into it to raise money. And I had people like close to me that were like, you got to take care of yourself right now. You're trying to like run your business. And it's kind of you're running into the ground. How do you have any time and energy to do this? And I'm just like, dude, I got to pray on it. I got to think about it, like make sure. And I remember sitting at a coffee shop and she's like, dude, just think about it. There's no pressure. We can go to someone else. And, I went outside and just kind of looked up at the sky and I just felt this like connection with God in the moment. And, the song I was listening to, the lyrics kind of connected me to encourage me to do it. And it's one of those things they say you can't pour from an empty cup, but at the same time, you don't have to wait until your cup's all the way filled up till you can help another person. And so I just said, I'm going to do this. I don't know if I have the time and energy where we're going to raise, $1 million, but if we raise $1, I feel I'm proud of myself that I did something here. Because my little cousin, 3 years old, was going through, he had leukemia. Ben, second cousin. And when I'm thinking of Ben, I'm like, what can we do for him directly, And we ended up, our campaign, it was Buffalo's first year. It was 2019. It was Buffalo's first year doing it. And the pandemic hit. So we were trying to campaign in the middle of, we couldn't go knock on doors. Mm-hmm. We couldn't do our, our drive where you come in, do 50-50 and have all the everything had to be online. So we were learning how to transition LLS onto online. We ended up doing, I think, 150 grand, which I'm very proud of. The fact that it was a first year through a pandemic, people were losing their jobs and still willing to give us $25, $100, $2,000, whatever we can get from someone. So yeah, I considered it a successful campaign. But I got a lot of love for the Blood Cancer United team over there. So that's cool, man. What else?
Awesome.
Like, how can people get involved if they want to do something to help out the organization?
Yeah, so we have a website, Opus Charitable Foundation. We have a website there. We're actually having a gala next year, 2020, August of 2026. We're having a gala. We're going to try and raise $1 million for pediatric cancer research. I was actually up in DC, not last week, but the week before. Blood Cancer United had a summit up there, and we were lobbying for some federal funding for pediatric cancer research. You mentioned your little cousin Ben. My dad's name is Ben. I got chills when you said that. But also,
it's funny. On top of all that, I just looked down at my computer screen, and I have a note from one of my mentors, Ben Johnson, who also was on the show. And I literally just looked at his name as we said Ben. It was pretty cool.
Really? Yeah. So it kind of gave me chills. And then our focus, we committed $1.75 million as a foundation to Opus to Blood Cancer United for pediatric cancer research. So the gala, we've already raised $800,000. We're trying to raise $1 million. So if people want to, they can buy my book. All of the proceeds go to.
Send me the link and we'll put it in the show notes. So if people want to donate, even if it's $10, $15, $100, every dollar counts. Absolutely. And it does get used in the right way to research. It's not, paying just for commercials and all this stuff. I made sure when I was partnering with the organization, we checked it out and that it was good. So that's really cool, and happy to help your dad. That's a cool story about you being able to donate. There's a whole nother side story. My father passed away in 2020, and his body was kind of shutting down before the pandemic. Like his, he needed a kidney transplant bad, and he was on a list for a really long time, and he never got it. So I said, I'll give you mine. And I went and got tested, and they said it was a match. But then we didn't end up going through with that, and COVID hit right away. And it was just a situation where, because his immune system was so low, that he was one of the cases where he went into the hospital, and a week later he never, didn't come out. He came out, but he wasn't alive. And so I never got a chance to say goodbye to my dad. So think about him every day. He's right here behind me on my shelf. I got him tipping his Yankees cap. He was a huge Yankees fan. And I think about my dad a lot, and, part of my purpose, and we think about what drives us and inspires us. You got kids, you have, a beautiful family, you got your wife that inspires you. I have my daughter that inspires me, and the people that I want to impact and their companies through our podcast agency. But also I'm doing it for my dad. Like, he didn't get to see that time, the company, like I said, when I was doing the LLS thing, like it was on pretty much life support. And so for us to have some cool things we're doing now, I wish he could have seen it. I know he is, but that's really cool that you got to be able to do that for your dad and make a difference.
Yeah. And you're his legacy. I mean, that's really what's important. That's why I do what I do now. It's this place that I'm sitting here right now. This is my legacy, my kids. When my dad was, the day before we were doing the transplant, I wrote him a note, and I said, if something happens to you, I understand. I'm your legacy, just like you were Popo's legacy.
Keep it going.
And I'm going to keep it going. And I'm going to make sure that everyone understands what you were about, because they could see it through me. And I'm sure your father was a hard worker, and he lives through you now. And
he was old school, man. He worked at the Buffalo Ford stamping plant, stamping out the car doors, for 32 years. He retired, and then he ended up getting colon cancer, and then fought through that, multiple surgeries and procedures. And then later in life had the kidney situation, and COVID hit, and it just wasn't good. So you're right. I do think about that, the legacy where, make him proud, and then do some great things with my family. Take care of my mom, which I went to Buffalo a couple weekends ago to celebrate her 70th birthday and treat her like the queen that she is. So that made me feel really good. And I know my dad was happy to see that, all of our kids. My brother came up from Florida and my sister is there too. So it was a really great weekend we had with mom. But let's do rapid fire. And I know you got to run. Couple of things I want to learn a little bit about you that I think our audience would get some value in is, what's one daily habit that you absolutely won't start your day without?
Affirmations.
You do that every day.
Cool. Every morning, affirmations. And I've been doing it since I woke up the day after Thanksgiving in 2009 in a 6x9 cell. Because you have to have that ultimate belief in yourself. And, it's like we said earlier, whether you believe you can or believe you can't, you're right. And
Wow.
I start every day with an affirmation.
You just say it in your head, like when you're in the shower, or like you would put your 2 feet on the ground. That's cool. We've covered affirmations a lot on this show. It's something I believe in. I typically do mine in the shower just because it's the time when I don't have any screen time and nobody can get a hold of me. So it's my sacred time right there. That's awesome. What would you say is the best piece of advice that you've ever received, and maybe the worst piece of advice you've ever received?
The best piece of advice I've ever received is I think it's just constant belief in yourself. I think, my dad instilled that in me, that you could do anything, you could do anything, you could do anything. Now, it's going to take a plan to get there. You can't just wish for it, but you're capable of doing anything if you put a plan in place to execute on what you want that end goal to be. And I think the worst advice is when people do have a limited mindset and they're like, you can't do that. I think I keep going back to can and can't. That's my favorite quote is Henry Ford. But I think the worst advice is when someone says you can't do that.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. One thing my dad did instill in me is, and he kept it real simple, old school Italian, you got to have a plan. That was all he said. He's like, I can give you one thing. You want to do anything in life, you want to get to a high level doing it. He didn't even say all that. He just said, you got to have a plan. And I knew what he meant, If you could have dinner, let's say, you're meeting up with a leader, an entrepreneur, dead or alive, could be anybody, any field. Who's at your dinner table?
Jeff Bezos.
Okay. That's cool. You just pick his brain and see, what makes him tick and all that. Yeah.
I actually did my freshman term paper in college on Amazon and Jeff Bezos in 2000, when he was just selling books. And I just think that where he was then and where he is today. I love high functioning visionaries and I love idea guys. I love collaboration. There's no way that all of these ideas are his. How does how does he surround himself with positive
It's like the Napoleon
people?
Hill. It's a Napoleon Hill thing where you learn from hundreds and hundreds of other entrepreneurs who came before us and take the good and, we build it, use that as our foundational growth and have a plan. And then the things we don't like that they've done, we don't copy that part of it,
Yep.
So good. I don't know much about Bezos, but I respect anybody who's built something like that, and is a visionary. And I also love that picture of him sitting in his garage at a table. The word like Amazon is literally like written on a banner on the wall. And he was just selling books on a simple website. Really cool. Speaking of books, what's one book, maybe it's a podcast or resource, that was just a major impact on your life?
The Positive Bus.
Positive Bus? Okay.
The Positive Bus. It's
not the Energy Bus. Is there a different one?
It was the Energy Bus. You're right. I think
Energy
it was
Bus.
the Energy Bus. Yeah,
I read that.
Haven't read it. I haven't read it since I was in jail, but I remember it was so impactful.
Yeah. Dude, I have to say, I read it probably 10 or 15 years ago. Give me a little bit, take me back to it. Cause I know I remember reading it, but I don't remember the main takeaway from it.
I just remember it was about positivity and positive energy and how you could almost manifest things and
like changing the lens and how you look at a situation, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
There's another really good book. I interviewed a guy. Hopefully I'm not getting his name wrong. Austin Matthews. This is a couple months ago. I don't know that his first name was Austin though. His last name was Matthews, and he wrote a ton of good books. I don't have them in front of me, but just about positivity, being happy. The one book is literally called Being Happy, and he's a really good illustrator. So he illustrates out like you're talking about, not saying I can't and saying I can. So he would illustrate something like that with a really cool picture. I definitely, Andrew Matthews. I think it's Andrew Matthews. Check him out. If you like the energy bust, you'll dig his books.
Yeah. And when you think about energy itself, I mentioned this in my book, like energy vampires, the people that are just always walking around angry and I'm so stressed, and they're creating, put me on poor me island. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's toxic. It's toxic.
I'll say this. We're both Italian, right? We got that Italian heritage, and I love being Italian. There's a lot of great things, a lot of respect and family values and stuff. But one thing that Italians don't do really well is, forget about stuff. We kind of hold on to grudges, and this guy did me wrong 12 years ago. I'm not going to ever, you know what I mean? Hey, the family, you go to a wedding. How much did they give her in her wedding? We got to give the same amount. Like, everything is about getting even all the time. And it's like, so I've learned a lot later in life. Like, again, you take the good values from what we learned somewhere, and then anything we want to add to that to make it even better, we can do that. And that's my favorite part of being a dad is, trying to say, hey, these are lessons and things I learned to help you, to talking to Isabel, my daughter. And then, like, if there's anything I can do maybe and improve on, I'm going to do that. And then, I'm going to have to keep getting better. You don't just stay stagnant. And that's the exciting part about having 365 days in a year is every day, even if you're not happy with who you were yesterday or something you did, or you feel like you went backwards, that's okay. Guess what? Today, you flip that page. Now you're in page 2, if it's the second day of the year, and maybe we're in page 195 right now. Who knows where we're at, but it doesn't matter. Like, you flip it. Now you're at 196, and you get to rewrite your story every single day. And that is what God bless us with, the ability to rewrite our story. Who do we want to be today? And that's what I leave our audience with. And look at what Chuck experienced. You made a mistake. You didn't realize what the mistake was going to equal. There's that old saying of, you make your bed or whatever, like you made your own bed or something. Now you got to lay in it, that whole thing. Yeah. And you did. You spent 5 months there. You're reading books like The Energy Bus. You rebuilt your foundation. And now look at the cool stuff you built, the cool things you're doing with OPES. And I know I'm saying it wrong, but the foundation, and what you're doing for LLS and everything else, man. And you're coaching your kids' teams. You're present with them offline. You were telling me that you're going to Cooperstown for the baseball tournament this summer. Or is it happening? It's not now because it's almost winter time, but spring ball? Summer ball?
Summer ball. Yep.
Summer ball. And there's like 100 teams that go to Cooperstown. That was one of my favorite moments as a kid. I went to Doubleday Field. My dad took the family. We'd go on some cool trips together as a family, and that was one of them, Cooperstown. I always had the dream of being a ball player. I just didn't have the physicality and the skill. But my favorite ball player growing up was Derek Jeter. Talk about a guy, humility and good role model. He was it. And the other thing he did was he delivered. And he wasn't always the most physically gifted. He's not a home run hitter, but he'll get on base. He'll manufacture runs. Going against the best pitching, best of the best in the World Series, he delivers in key moments. And you depended on him, and he showed up and delivered. So that kind of mentality. I also love Michael Jordan growing up, even though I didn't live in Chicago. But who didn't love MJ? Dude, literally levitating across the court. And I'll say this: we talked a lot about sports today. I'll end with Michael Jordan saying is, the reason that he's successful is because he took 9,000 shots, right? That didn't go in, and then he still made that 9,001 shot. And Edison with the light bulb, he didn't fail. He just did it 10,000 times that didn't work yet, until the 10,001 time when the light bulb went on. So what are we doing in life? I'm asking you, but just everyone tuning in, what can you do to write your story today and be the person that you want to be? And that's what's really cool is Chuck got to do it. I get to do it. You get to do it. Any last words before we part with the audience right now and before you get back to what you're doing?
No, I mean, just have confidence and belief in yourself. Have a plan for your goals, because if you don't have a plan, it's really just a wish.
Got to have a plan. There it is again, man. Yeah. Much respect and love to your whole family, especially to Ben, your dad. And
thanks.
You got to have a plan. So that's a shout out to my dad right here. And I'm going to say go Bills. I know you're a Chiefs fan, but tonight you're rooting for them. So I
for
leave
'em.
everybody every episode with be great and be grateful. I'm going to add be kind because that's something we have control over. So wherever you're at today, listening to this or watching it, the next thing I want you to do is just go be kind to somebody. And the last thing is go Bills. Thank you so much for being on the show. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Mike.